My brother bullied Joe Linson, deafening him and causing the death of his mother. 10 years later, the impoverished academic overachiever became a business tycoon, took everything from my brother, and kept me as his caged canary. My brother took me and fled abroad. I thought I was finally free. But my brother imprisoned and abused me, starving me. He recorded videos of the abuse and sent them to Joe Linson, extorting $3 billion from him after getting the money. My brother callously handed me over to a group of vagrants, and I died from the torment. The man I loathed like a viper killed those who hurt me and beheaded my brother, covered in blood. He held my body and cried, "Don't be afraid, I've come to take you home." Reborn at 18. I vowed to seek revenge and to save him. 01. After being reborn, I went to find Joe Linson and saw Shen Yao, my fraternal twin brother, bullying him with his friends. Shen Yao, who appeared as a perfect student in front of teachers and parents, was actually malicious and extremely envious. He bullied Joe Linson simply because Joe's presence meant he could only be second best. Shen Yao, wielding a baseball bat, smashed up a wonton shop, laughing arrogantly. "I want you out of Jiaolan High School and out of the capital. Did you take my words for wind?" At that moment, Shen Yao didn't know the poor academic genius he was wantonly bullying would years later become a business mogul, stripping Shen Yao of everything and imprisoning me as his canary. Joe Linson's mother was mute and not quite mentally stable. She was scared into tears. Shen Yao sneered, "Look, his mom had her tongue cut out. Probably messed with someone else's husband, bore an illegitimate child, and got taught a lesson by the wife, a pair of lowlifes." Suddenly, the normally restrained Joe Linson rushed over, tackled Shen Yao to the ground, and started punching him in the face. Shen Yao, a taekwondo expert who usually only dished out beatings, was unexpectedly overpowered by Joe Linson, with a fierce look in his eyes. Joe seemed like a desperado who had killed before. "What are you all waiting for? Pull him off me." Shen Yao's friends were intimidated by Joe Linson's aura, and none dared to intervene. It wasn't until Shen Yao spat blood that Joe Linson let him go. "Get out of my shop." Joe Linson then went to comfort his mother, who was crying like a child, with gentle patience. Staggering to his feet, Shen Yao picked up the baseball bat, his eyes filled with venom, and swung it toward the back of Joe Linson's head. "Watch out behind you," I screamed hysterically. Joe Linson reacted just in time. Grabbing the baseball bat, my heart pounded like a drum. In my previous life, Joe Linson was hit in the head with a baseball bat by Shen Yao, resulting in deafness. Thankfully, I prevented it this time. Joe Linson wrested the baseball bat from Shen Yao's hands, eyes blazing with rage, and swung it at him. Because of my intervention, the course of events changed dramatically. I rushed forward, spreading my arms to shield Shen Yao. "Joe Linson, stop." The baseball bat halted just in front of my forehead. Our eyes met, and I remembered how Joe Linson had imprisoned me in my past life. In the days when he was like a canary, at night, he kissed me madly, his knees parting my legs, acting recklessly. I couldn't endure his unrestrained demands and begged him to be gentler. Joe Linson simply removed his cochlear implant, refusing to listen to me, and did as he pleased according to his own desires. All I could do was helplessly scratch his back with my nails. He enjoyed that. Getting even more excited, the man kissed away my tears, chuckling, and said, "Doing it so many times each day, how can you still not handle it? Still so tight, Jang." Because his technique was terribly poor, yet his desires were heavy. Day by day, with relentless energy, those memories seeped deep into my bones, making me instinctively take a step back. Joe Linson stared straight at me, his dark eyes trembling. Then he put down the baseball bat. He grabbed my wrist and drew me close to him, saying coldly, "Shen Huiyan, you really do protect your brother." I winced in pain, drawing in a breath of cold air. Joe Linson noticed my reaction, rolled up my sleeve, and saw my arm covered in bleeding whip marks. He pulled open my collar. My back was also scarred. Joe Linson's eyes turned blood red, his anger even more intense than when he himself was bullied by Shen Yao, bordering on panic. "Who did this?" It was then that I confirmed I had really been reborn. I stared at him blankly, thinking he had scared me. He softened his voice and asked, "Shen Huiyan, tell me, who was it?" Shen Yao pushed Joe Linson away. "Don't touch my sister." Joe Linson grabbed Shen Yao's shoulder, twisted his arm behind his back, and hissed, "Was it you?" Until Joe Linson saw that Shen Yao's collar also concealed whip marks. "None of your business, get lost." Shen Yao shook him off and led me away. I looked back to see Joe Linson clenching his fists, his eyes filled with pain and rage. "Joe Linson, this time, I will stand by your side." 03. On this day in my last life, my brother caused Joe Linson's ears to go deaf. Joe Linson refused to reconcile, insisting on suing Shen Yao. "Sister, Joe Linson is a perverted scum. He was taking upskirt photos of Zhang Xiaoyun, and I was just teaching him a lesson for her. I didn't mean to deafen him. It was all an accident. I don't want to go to jail. Sister, can you help me talk to him? Ask him to let me go." Zhang Xiaoyun is my best friend. She had a crush on my brother and helped him with his lies. I believed them and went to the hospital to find Joe Linson. In the hospital room, Joe Linson's head was wrapped in bandages, his face pale. Even in sleep his brows were furrowed with discomfort. putting myself in the shoes of someone who had been deafened. I felt very sorry for him. Moreover, with the college entrance exams coming up, and the 30 points for the English listening section out of his reach, originally, with his grades, he was likely to be the top scorer of our province in the college entrance examination. I realized that asking Joe Lynchen to drop the lawsuit was a very selfish and despicable act. I turned around and left. He woke up. Come here. I walked over to the hospital bed, nervously fiddling with the panda pendant on my bag. After hesitating, I took out a bank card and wrote on a piece of paper, Joe Lynchen, there are 300,000 yuan on this card. It's the New Year's money I've saved. Take it and get a cochlear implant. Joe Lynchen read the note and smiled. That's not enough. I wrote another note. What else do you want? Suddenly, Joe Lynchen's expression turned wild. He pulled me onto the bed, pinned me down, and kissed me passionately. I struggled. He lifted my hands above my head, holding my wrists, deepening the kiss, our lips and tongues entwined, unleashing his desire. He was like a madman. I started crying out of fear. Joe Lynchen looked up at me, his eyes red. Even though he was the one tormenting me, his eyes looked incredibly sad. Blood seeped through the bandages, a drop of blood fell along his eyelashes, like a tear of blood, landing on my cheek. His smile was grotesque. What did your brother tell you? That I took secret photos of classmates, that he's the hero who fights evil, and I'm the despicable pervert. Yes, I'm a pervert. Do you feel it? I'm aroused. I want you. Breathing heavily, I slowly said in sign language, spare my brother. Do whatever you want with me. Joe Lynchen looked at me incredulously, then let me go and shouted in collapse, get out, just go. I ran out of the hospital room, realizing the bank card was still in my pocket. He didn't take my 300,000 yuan but took my panda pendant. Joe Lynchen dropped the lawsuit. We were classmates, and after he recovered, he returned to class. He couldn't hear the teacher and had to study on his own. I avoided talking to him, dodging him every day. When the monthly test results came out, I was the first to check Joe Lynchen's scores. He scored 0 in the listening portion of English, but he had compensated by scoring higher in other subjects. He still ranked first. I was happy for him. My brother ranked second, and I was ninth. My father demanded that we siblings must always be first. Every time we lost to Joe Lynchen, he would abuse us. We knelt in the study. My father whipped us furiously with a leather whip. You have the best resources, tutors, extra classes, and yet you still can't beat a poor kid who has to work multiple jobs. Joe Lynchen is deaf, and you still lose to him. Useless idiots, trash. The whip burned our skin, but my father's insults hurt even more. Xinyao released his hatred on Joe Lynchen, committing atrocious acts that ultimately ruined Joe Lynchen's life. Joe Lynchen's mother was a college student who had been abducted to the mountains. Her tongue had been cut off by Joe Lynchen's biological father, Wang Guishan. Wang Guishan chained her in a room, raped her, and tortured her to the point of mental breakdown. She gave birth to Joe Lynchen. At the age of 10, Joe Lynchen escaped the mountains with his mother. Despite the harsh environment, he bravely protected his mother. Xinyao found Wang Guishan and gave him the address where Joe Lynchen and his mother lived. Wang Guishan led his relatives to the wonton shop to apprehend them. Seeing Wang Guishan, Joe Lynchen's mother panicked and ran into the road, where she was hit and killed by an oncoming truck. The accident happened the day before the college entrance examination. I was in the same examination hall as Joe Lynchen and noticed his empty seat, wondering why he hadn't come. Xinyao and I both performed well on the exam, and my father held a celebration banquet at a 5-star hotel. I was dressed in a gown and high heels, with my hair styled and makeup done, joyfully embracing my new life as an adult. Shen Huiyan, Joe Lynchen, dressed as a waiter, looked me up and down and said with a smile, you look beautiful. I was scared of him and ran away, lifting my dress. Something felt off. He couldn't hear, and this hotel wouldn't hire him as a waiter. What was he planning by sneaking in? I looked back. Joe Lynchen was still standing there watching me. I ran up to him and started unbuttoning his jacket to check for weapons. He spread his hands, letting me search him, and laughed. You act like a good girl, but you're actually quite bold. Joe Lynchen grabbed my arm and pulled me into his embrace. He held me tightly by the back of my neck. Your brother, he made me deaf and killed my mother. I will come back for revenge. Shen Huiyan, don't be afraid. I didn't come here for revenge today. I came to see you. You've grown up, and you really are very beautiful. My eyes welled up with tears, but I gathered the courage to hug him tightly. Knowing he couldn't hear me, I revealed a secret I had kept in my heart. At the opening ceremony in the first year of high school, when you gave a speech representing the new students, I thought you were so handsome from where I sat. Joe Lynchen, I had a crush on you, even though no matter how hard I tried, I could never outperform you, and my father would abuse me for it. I still, secretly liked you for a very long time, but my brother is more important. I didn't stand by your side. I'm sorry, you must hate me. 05. When we met again, it was 10 years later. Joe Lynchen had become a formidable figure in the business world, ruthlessly seeking revenge on Xinyao. Xinyao was never a match for Joe Lynchen in school, nor was he a match for him in the business world. Xinyao's defeat seemed inevitable. Joe Lynchen drove Xinyao to bankruptcy, leaving him penniless and deeply in debt. with no hope of recovery in this lifetime, I watched as he fell from grace, sinking into despair and degradation, and I, too, was punished for my selfish actions back then, becoming Joe Linson's caged canary. At 28, Joe Linson was a madman, suffering from severe irritability and unable to sleep through the night. He said he could only sleep while holding me, thus, he built a lavish villa to imprison me. Joe Linson, how is what you're doing any different from what Wang Guishan did to your mother? Joe Linson revealed that kind of smile that was uglier than crying. You're right, I was born a rapist's spawn, with filthy, disgusting blood coursing through my veins, Shen Huiyan. But saying this to me hurts more than stabbing me. You might as well just stab me. Overwhelmed by his emotions, he grabbed a fruit knife from the table and placed it in my hands, then, gripping my hand, he directed it towards his own chest. The tip of the knife pierced his white shirt, and blood flowed out. Don't do this, you're not that bad, Joe Linson, stop. I don't want you to get hurt. Eventually, he calmed down and let go of my hand. I was so scared that I was sweating profusely, and the knife fell to the ground. Frantically, I unbuttoned his shirt to check the wound. He was well built, with broad shoulders and a narrow waist, his muscles well defined. He had a beautiful body, but that beautiful body was covered in scars. He had suffered a lot to get to where he was today. He was not happy. A trace of pleasure crossed Joe Linson's eyes. Shen Huiyan. This is the second time you've unbuttoned my shirt. He pointed to his cochlear implant. I can hear now. Tell me, what did you say in my arms when we parted all those years ago? My forehead rested against his shoulder, and for some reason, I felt incredibly sad. In this life, the barrier between us was his mother's death. We could never truly be together. Back then I said, I hate you. Of all the people in the world, I hate you the most. Joe Linson pulled me into his embrace, holding me so tightly it hurt. I hate you the most too, Shen Huiyan. He buried his face in the nape of my neck. You have to die beside me, or let me die beside you. Let it be me who dies beside you, and you can scatter my ashes. I died soon after, but I didn't get to die beside him. 06, Shenyao took me abroad, thinking I was finally free, but he imprisoned me, abused me, and starved me. The look on Shenyao's face when he hit me was terrifying. More deranged than my domestically abusive father, he grabbed my hair and smashed my head against the aquarium. The aquarium shattered, and I was covered in blood, collapsing onto the glass shards. Watching the fish struggling to death beside me, I felt as helpless as they were. I finally found a way to get back at Joe Linson. He wanted to win over Joe Linson and had become delusional. It's you, my dear sister. He's been obsessively in love with you since high school. Torturing you will hurt him. Shenyao recorded videos of his abuse and sent them to Joe Linson, extorting $3 billion from him. Despite risking his financial stability, Joe Linson gathered the money. After getting the money, Shenyao turned around and handed me over to a group of vagrants to torment. I was tortured to death. Joe Linson, whom I despised, crossed oceans to kill all those who had harmed me, and beheaded Shenyao. Covered in blood, Joe Linson cradled my corpse. Covering my eyes, he cried. The man who was beaten deaf by Shenyao, who had never cried before, wept inconsolably. Ah, 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 ah. Joe Linson let out an inhuman roar. In the end, he said, Shen Huiyan, don't be afraid. I'm here to take you home. The memories abruptly stopped. 07, having been reborn, I successfully prevented the incident where Joe Linson was deafened by Shenyao. The next thing I needed to do was to stop his mother's death. I visited Joe Linson's family wonton shop again, which required passing through a narrow alley. In the alley, there were 3 dubious-looking young men. Look, a real beauty. She has a great figure, such a slim waist, and such fair skin. They eyed me with ill intentions and whistled at me. They reminded me of the vagrants who raped me in my previous life, the foul and sticky bodily fluids, the brutal beatings, the tearing pain. I didn't want to die, but no one came to save me. I had a stress reaction, my breathing became rapid, and my body stiffened. Beauty, let's exchange WeChat contacts. I clenched my fists and refused. No, I won't add you. Looking down on us. We really should have some fun with you. What fun? Have it with me. Joe Linson suddenly appeared, standing in front of me. His broad shoulders shielded me completely, giving me a sense of security. The young men seemed to be afraid of him. Chen, is she your girl? Sorry for offending your lady. Hello, ma'am. Get lost. All right, we're going. They ran off. Joe Linson still hadn't turned around. I rushed over and hugged him tightly from behind, burying my face in his back. His body stiffened, immobile. I trembled, tears flowing uncontrollably. Shen Huiyan, don't be afraid. I'm here. Shall I bring them back and beat them up in front of you? Next time you see them, help me beat them up, okay? Joe Linson anxiously asked. Can you stop crying then? Let me cry for 5 more minutes. Okay, but once the tears started, It was hard to stop them. I hugged him and cried for 5 minutes, and then another 5 minutes. It seemed I needed to turn all the grievances of my past life into tears. I only stopped when his back was soaked. I want to eat your family's wontons. All right, have 2 bowls. My tears turned into laughter. It turned out he was really afraid of seeing me cry, except when I cried in bed. 08, Joe Lynchen's mother, Sun Lon, greeted me with a gentle smile. Hearing that I wanted wontons, she sent Joe Lynchen off to buy groceries with a note of discontent. Rarely do classmates visit our home, buy good ingredients to treat them. This boy is cold on the outside but dull on the inside, no wonder he has no friends. Auntie's note made me laugh. I went grocery shopping with Joe Lynchen. My mom is just like anyone else as long as she's not agitated. Don't be scared of her. I'm not. Your mom is fun. I like her, he suddenly asked. Is it your dad who abuses you? Joe Lynchen's chest heaved as he spoke angrily. Don't just stand there and take it next time. If he hits you again, make a scene. Make it so loud that all the relatives know, call the police, contact the Women's Federation, let him understand that there's a price to pay for hitting you. I smiled at him. Yeah. Next time I'll fight back. His anger intensified. How can Shen Yao just flip between white and black? You're so gentle and adorable. Why would he hit you? All the reasons are just excuses for him to exercise violence, to feel the taste of power through it. He's addicted to the violence. If he doesn't change his ways, just call me and I'll beat him up. I stepped on Joe Lynchen's shadow, basking in the warm spring sunlight. The day I died was too cold. I loved basking in the sun. I smiled and replied, all right. Joe Lynchen was truly skilled at getting things done, his hands full of plastic bags. He wouldn't let me carry anything and bought me a stick of candied hawthorn to enjoy slowly. He tied on an apron and bustled around the kitchen, managing 2 pots at once. And within half an hour, he had prepared 5 dishes and a soup. Sun Lon handed me a note. He can do everything, loves to take charge and manage everything. I knew, he had a strong desire to control. When I was his canary, my clothes, jewelry, bags, and watches were all personally bought and matched by him. The 3 of us sat down to eat together. I realized that he had cooked all my favorite dishes. Had he noticed what I liked when I ate in the cafeteria? A crush is one person's chaos. In our past life, it was actually a mutual crush. If not for some misunderstandings, could our ending have been different? 09, returning to campus once again. At this time in my past life, the class was reshuffling seats, and I was supposed to sit next to Joe Lynchen, but I didn't want to sit with him, so I went to the teacher to change seats. This time, I happily sat next to Joe Lynchen. I smiled at him, eyes curving in delight. Desk mate, good morning. Joe Lynchen looked at me with clear eyes and said, good morning. Less than a minute after I sat down, students from other classes came to give me gifts. Today was my 18th birthday. I don't accept gifts, nor letters, thank you. I politely smiled, rejecting each one. Friends gathered around me, laughing and joking. Our Yan Yan truly deserves to be the school beauty. Every year so many people come to give gifts on her birthday. This is the annual confession day, one of the honors for the boys. To have chased the school beauty. Sounds like you're just sour. They were my best friends during high school. After graduation, we went our separate ways and seldom kept in touch. Seeing the girls from my memories once again, I was very happy and started horsing around with them. The roughhousing escalated until the tomboy among them pushed me hard, sending me crashing into Joe Lynchen. Joe Lynchen caught me, and I ended up sitting on his lap. Surprisingly, he looked shocked, his arms wrapped around my waist, his pupils dilated. I was stunned. I'm hard. I want you. Inappropriately, I recalled he had said this in a past life. I immediately stood up, my cheeks burning, and sat back down in my seat. I didn't catch a word of what my friends were joking about. Joe Lynchen kept his head down, writing on his test paper, not looking at me again, but my attention was always on him. He was in my peripheral vision. Shen Yao had rented out a bar for his birthday, inviting many friends. I used 300,000 yuan of my New Year's money to buy Shen Yao a watch. The watch was modified, equipped with a listening device, although in the last life, Wang Guishan only approached Joe Lynchen and his mother the day before the college entrance examination. I couldn't be sure what would happen this time around. I needed to monitor Shen Yao, to keep tabs on when he would meet Wang Guishan. Bro, this is my gift for your coming of age. I spent all my savings on it. I want you to wear it every day. Shen Yao immediately put on the watch, patted my head, and smiled indulgently. All right, everyone cheered. True twins, such a strong bond. I wish I had a sister like Huyen, so soft and sweet, so kind and considerate. Shen Yao put his arm around my shoulder. You guys can't envy this. Yan Yan is mine. At that moment, Joe Lynchen, dressed as a waiter, came to serve drinks. He saw Shen Yao's hand on my shoulder, his eyes darkening. Shen Yao had chosen this location on purpose. He wanted to humiliate Joe Lynchen. Joe Lynchen, is that you? How much do you earn per hour working here? Joe Lynchen didn't answer. The boy next to him quickly said, Mr. Shen, we earn 25 yuan an hour. Shen Yao's close friends burst into sharp laughter. 25, that's not even enough to buy me a pack of cigarettes. Joe Linson, here's 1,000 yuan, finish this bottle of foreign wine, wish us a happy birthday, and then you can leave. I thought Joe Linson would refuse. He picked up the bottle and drank. I tried to stop him, but Xinyao grabbed my arm. Sister, I didn't force him, he's just desperately trying to earn that 1,000 yuan. After Joe Linson finished the drink, he looked at me and said, Shen Huiyan, happy birthday, thank you. After Joe Linson left, Xinyao immediately went outside to make a phone call. Something felt off, so I put on my earphones to listen in on his call. Joe Linson is drunk, ambush him in the alley, he has to pass on his way home, take him down for me. I immediately left the bar through the back door and caught up with Joe Linson. Joe Linson, Xinyao has hired thugs to beat you up. Joe Linson, resembling his mother, had a beautiful face. A young man with broad shoulders, slender waist, long legs, dressed in black, his skin very pale. No matter where he stood, he was strikingly conspicuous. The night was truly beautiful. Joe Linson's eyes were slightly blurred from the alcohol, but when he looked at me, his gaze was always intense. He never concealed his desires. Are you drunk? Just moments ago, Joe Linson was able to walk, but suddenly, he toppled towards me. I immediately caught him, and we embraced tightly. Yes, I'm drunk. He was so tall that holding him was a bit of a struggle. Why did you drink that bottle of wine? If I hadn't, Xinyao would have been relentless. I didn't want to spoil your birthday. What about my birthday present? Joe Linson's chin rested on my shoulder, his warm breath tickling my sensitive ear. You lack nothing material, I couldn't give you anything better. I compiled a set of review materials and predictions based on previous year's college entrance exam papers and sent them to your email. I laughed. Actually, for a senior high student like me, this gift was the most practical. Thank you, top student, for sharing your secret techniques with me. Joe Linson patted the back of my head. I could sense his mood was low. In the future, there will be better gifts. I booked a room for Joe Linson. He was so drunk he could barely walk. I had no choice but to help him to his room, but he pulled me down onto the bed with him. I collapsed on top of him. The room came alive. This hormonally charged high school boy, don't move, just stay still. Okay, I didn't dare move. Joe Linson lay there, breathing with his neck arched, his Adam's apple bobbing, and his skin flushed red below his collarbone. His body was burning hot. Miraculously, Joe Linson soon fell asleep, clutching my wrist tightly. I tried to pry his fingers open without success, probably because I had just been reborn. I felt very sleepy. I set an alarm on my phone, planning to sleep for an hour before leaving. When I opened my eyes, Joe Linson was awake. He sat up in bed, watching me for who knows how long, showing no signs of drunkenness. I need to go home now. Suddenly, I felt a warm flow below. My period had started. The flow was especially heavy on the first day. When I got up, I saw a blood stain about 5 centimeters in diameter on the white bedsheet. A young boy and girl in a room with a blood-stained sheet. If seen by a third person, it would be hard to explain. I ordered some sanitary pads and underwear, and plucking up courage, I said, I'll leave in a bit. Joe Linson awkwardly replied, his face suspiciously red, fidgeting with the panda pendant on my bag. I tried to make conversation. Have you finished your homework?
Yeah.
It's done. I have a physics problem I can't solve. Can you explain it to me? Sure. So, we sat on the large hotel bed, purely immersed in the ocean of knowledge. His approach to solving problems was simple and clear, and his handwriting was beautiful. Joe Linson was the kind of person with high intelligence, a natural talent who could succeed at anything. Did you understand? Yes, I had never been so eager to learn, and I asked him to explain another math problem to me. I was so embarrassed I could curl my toes into the floorboards. Joe Linson's mouth curled into a smile. He was laughing secretly. Finally, my takeout has arrived. After changing my sanitary pad, I stuffed my dirty underwear into my bag. I'm leaving. You can find a hotel to change the sheets. It's okay, don't worry about it, he asked. Does your stomach hurt during your period? It hurts for the first 2 days. Joe Linson took off his coat and tied it around my waist, saying, I'll remember that. Why would he remember that? Joe Linson insisted on taking me home and watched me enter the door before he left. The next day during gym class, I sat in the classroom with headphones on, working on a paper. I overheard a conversation between Xinyao and Zhang Xiaoyun. Today Joe Linson is handling the equipment. You follow him to the equipment room. Once inside, take off your clothes and hug him, shouting harassment. Our school has only one slot for the national physics competition. The school recommended Joe Linson. Xinyao, afraid of angering his dad, lied that the school had recommended him. In a past life, Joe Linson's ears were injured, and he had to rest at home for a month. Xinyao took his place in the competition. In this life, Joe Linson was not hurt. Recently, Xinyao has been causing trouble for Joe Linson, trying to snatch the physics competition slot. Zhang Xiaoyun was unwilling. I can't do that. There were rustling sounds. Xinyao took off his clothes. Brother Yao, Zhang Xiaoyun saw the wounds on his back and cried in pity. If Joe Linson stays at Jiaolan High School, no matter how hard I try, I'll always be second. My dad's punishments are getting harsher. I can't take it anymore. Xiaoyun, save me. Those words were too impactful. The girl thought she was the boy's salvation and was willing to sacrifice herself to save him. Okay, I ran to the equipment room. And no one was there yet. I heard someone coming in and hid behind a shelf. As soon as Zhang Xiaoyun entered, she took off her top and went to hug Zhou Linson. Zhou Linson pushed her away immediately. She covered her chest and was about to shout. I rushed over and covered her mouth. The three of us looked at each other, creating an awkward scene. Sister, I've been here all along. You like my brother. So what's this about attacking Zhou Linson? Zhang Xiaoyun put her clothes back on and started crying. I pretended to be naive and said, my dad still wants to arrange a marriage with your family. Since you like Zhou Linson, I'll tell my dad to drop the idea. No, I like brother Yao. Then what is this? Zhang Xiaoyun grabbed my hand and said, Yan Yan. Don't ask anymore. Can you keep this secret for me? I won't do this again. My goal was to block Shen Yao's move of using Zhang Xiaoyun to slander Zhou Linson. Okay, Zhang Xiaoyun left. In the equipment room, it was just me and Zhou Linson left. It was your brother who put her up to this, mentioning Shen Yao. He showed a disgusted expression. This is the third time you've saved me. You siblings are strange. You have such a good relationship. Yet one wants to harm me and the other wants to save me. Zhou Linson moved closer to me, and I stepped back. He reached out and held the back of my neck, leaned in close, and whispered in my ear, if it had been you seducing me just now, I really would have committed a crime. Bang. Shen Yao burst in with the head teacher. I witnessed the scene unfold. From their perspective, it looked like a kiss stolen in passing. Old Hu, our stern and impartial director of discipline, had a zeal for cracking down on early romances. Having finally caught someone red-handed, he was visibly excited. Zhou Linchen, Shen Huiyan, what are you two doing? Separate immediately. There I was, standing with Zhou Linchen at the classroom door as punishment. Aren't those two the top students? Why are they being punished? I heard they were caught dating early. It's just like a top student to win over the school beauty. They are such a perfect match. I'm totally shipping them. Frustration filled my mind as Old Hu wouldn't hear my explanations. I felt more wronged than the famous wronged heroine Do Yi. Zhou Linchen leaned against the wall, relaxed and cheerful. This scandal is all your fault.
Yeah.
My bad. With a gloomy face, I said. I've always been the good girl, the exemplary student. Now, not only am I punished by standing, but I also have to write a self-criticism. Even more embarrassing, I'll have to read it in front of the whole school during the Monday flag-raising ceremony. Woe is me, since the fault is yours. Zhou Linchen, you should write the self-criticism for me. All right. Zhou Linchen smiled at me. Shen Huiyan, you're finally back to your lively self. You've been so preoccupied lately. It's had me concerned. I was taken aback. I hadn't expected him to notice something was off. It's nothing. You're overthinking it. That's good to hear. During the flag-raising ceremony, I went up to read the self-criticism. Trusting in the academic achiever's writing and resisting the self-criticism itself, I hadn't read it beforehand. I am Shen Huiyan from Class 1, Senior Year. Early romance is defined as romantic relationships formed by individuals under 18. I turned 18 last Thursday. And director who caught us on Friday, therefore, I am not involved in an early romance. Laughter spread through the crowd below. The school beauty is clever indeed, right? We're all adults here. If we want to kiss, we'll kiss. Zhou Linchen had crafted a self-criticism that, while seemingly innocuous at first glance, could provoke thought and stir imaginations, displaying a knack for creating viral content. I stumbled through the reading and glared at Zhou Linchen as I stepped down. He simply looked up at me, completely unapologetic. Then it was Zhou Linchen's turn to read his self-criticism. I am Zhou Linchen from Class 1, Senior Year. Shen Huiyan and I are not in an early romance because I haven't successfully pursued her yet. After these words, he stepped down. The students erupted in cheers. The scholar is awesome. Go for it, scholar. We support you. I face-bombed. Zhou Linchen at 18 was quite the character. After the ceremony, Shen Yao dragged me to the rooftop. Sis, can you ask Zhou Linchen to give me his spot in the physics competition? Why would he listen to me? Just ask. He'll agree. Shen Yao, I can't do that. Shen Yao grabbed my shoulders, his expression almost fierce. I told Dad I'm joining the physics competition. He's already bragging about it to relatives. And I will definitely win an award in the physics competition and get recommended for admission to Beijing University. If he finds out I lied to him, he'll kill me. Yan Yan, help your brother out. I placated him non-committally, saying, okay, I'll talk to him, but if he doesn't agree, there's nothing I can do. Shen Yao left. Satisfied, Zhou Linchen stepped out from behind the wall and looked at me. I froze. He had heard everything. Zhou Linchen, why are you looking at me with such anticipation, waiting for you to ask for my help? Your brother was right. Just say the word, and I'll agree to anything, I demanded boldly. I want you to give me the first place trophy. Zhou Linchen smiled happily, his eyes curving into crescents. Okay, how could Zhou Linchen refuse you? When it comes to his future, he wouldn't just listen to me. Frustrated that his initial plan didn't work, Shen Yao concocted another scheme that very day. Aside from running a wonton shop, Sun Lan occasionally collected recyclables at the school. During lunch break, as I was about to doze off with headphones on, someone approached me. Master Shin, Zhou Linshan's mother has arrived, you must provoke him, make him hit you, then have your parents come and make a scene at the school to sabotage his competition eligibility. Don't worry, Master Shin, we'll handle it beautifully. Zhou Linshan was not in the classroom. As I walked out, I sent him a message, your mom is at school. Xinyao has asked Wu Qingxiang and the others to trouble her. A crowd had gathered by the pond. The crazy lady fell into the water. I pushed through the crowd and rushed over. Wu Qingxiang threw Sun Lan's money pouch into the water, scattering coins all over, as Sun Lan went into the water to retrieve her money. She floundered, she couldn't swim. Wu Qingxiang threw stones into the water, laughing. Hey, can't get up? Can you? Xinyao stood with his arms crossed, watching from above with a malicious smile. I jumped into the water. Auntie, don't be afraid. I'll get you out. The pond wasn't deep, but the shock had made Sun Lan panic. She was uncooperative and scratched my neck. The onlooking students asked, Xinyao, aren't you going to save your sister? Xinyao's face darkened. And with no other option, he jumped into the water. Soon after, Zhou Linshan rushed over and also jumped in. Xinyao pulled me out of the water. Zhou Linshan rescued his mother. Once on shore, Zhou Linshan, furious, kicked Wu Qingxiang back into the water, then, grabbing Xinyao by the collar. His eyes filled with rage, his fist ready to strike, Xinyao spread his hands calmly, waiting for Zhou Linshan to hit him. Zhou Linshan, no fighting. My period made me feel awful soaking in the water. My neck was burning painfully, the skin broken and bleeding, my body trembled uncontrollably. Zhou Linshan let go of Xinyao and supported me. I leaned against him, my hand gently stroking his chest, calming his rage. Take your mom home first, to avoid catching a cold. Sun Lan was terrified. Screaming in shock and hard to calm down, her classmates pointed and whispered about her. Zhou Linshan's mom has a mental illness, it's scary, with red eyes. Zhou Linshan gave me a deep look and left with his mother. Xinyao took me to the hospital, wrapped in a blanket. I felt a chill seeping through my body, bored. Xinyao sat next to me and took off his watch. The watch got water in it. I'll have the driver take it to Master Chen's shop for repairs. What bad timing for the watch to break. Would Master Chen find the listening device? Brother, let me take it for repair. You should rest. Just lie down. A part of me hoped he would stop bothering Zhou Linshan. After my rebirth, I had thought about guiding Xinyao onto the right path. It wasn't me who had Wu Qingxiang bully his mother. How could you think so low of me? Xinyao said, still playing the role of a good student in front of me. I suddenly saw through his act. In my past life, he had tortured me to get back at Zhou Linshan, even allowing a homeless man to assault me. He was inherently evil, beyond redemption, if it wasn't you. That's a relief, little sister. He's so poor, with a mute and insane mother, and dares to pursue you in public. He's just a toad lusting after a swan. Don't be foolish. Being with him would turn you from a rich young lady to a poor, haggard woman. I nonchalantly replied, I know, I won't like him. Xinyao smiled and patted my head. Good girl. That's when I noticed Zhou Linshan standing at the door of the hospital room. Xinyao, aware of his presence, lifted his chin in triumph and said, You heard her, my sister won't like you, you're not welcome here, now leave. Zhou Linshan didn't argue with Xinyao, he just turned and walked away. I thought he wouldn't come back. Late at night, feeling someone watching me, I woke up. Zhou Linshan was sitting by my bed. Shen Huiyan, does the scratch on your neck hurt? It doesn't hurt. I could see he was nearly overwhelmed with guilt. I'm sorry, my mom didn't mean to do it. My mom, she was a college student from the city. But she was kidnapped to the mountains during her freshman summer. The man who bought her, Wang Guishan, was a 42-year-old lazy man who raped her and had me. That place was poor, and the people were barbaric, treating women like animals. I can stand a hard life, but I couldn't stand him beating and raping my mom. At 10, I ran away with my mom. I reported him. Wang Guishan was sentenced to 8 years for rape and grievous bodily harm. So this year, Wang Guishan would be released. 8 years have passed, and my mom still lives in fear, afraid of being taken back. She was diagnosed with a mental illness and would become disturbed when triggered. I already knew this from my previous life. Hearing him say it again was still heartbreaking. Zhou Linshan laughed self-deprecatingly. I am the seed of a rapist, carrying disgusting blood. I never thought of being with you. You were as beautiful as a sickly sweet dream, one I dared not touch. I sat up. Zhou Linshan, come closer to me. Zhou Linshan moved closer. I embraced him, stroking his back, comforting him. Zhou Linshan, I was being sarcastic when I spoke to my brother. You are wonderful. Don't feel inferior. How about we both apply to Beijing University? I promised him a future. Zhou Linshan hugged me tight, his body trembling slightly. Okay. The next day, I went to Master Chen's watch shop. Xinyao was already there waiting for me. In front of him were disassembled watch parts. He held up a bug and asked, Sister, what is this? You know exactly what it is. Xinyao flew into a rage and grabbed my throat. I always found it strange, why you happened to show up every time I dealt with him. I cherished the birthday gift you gave me, wearing it every day. And yet you betray me for a stranger. Shen Huiyan, we're twins, we should be the closest people in this world. How could you treat me like this? I heard my neck crack. He really wanted to kill me? Stop acting. You've always been deceiving me, pretending to be good, you have no humanity. Shinya let go of me, his mouth twisting into a clownish grin. You caught me, sister. Growing up in a family like ours, turning out like me is normal. Why should you be untainted, trying to be a good person? Our relationship was irreparably damaged. Shinya threw down the bug and crushed it underfoot. Don't interfere with these little tricks anymore, or I'll bully you too. I clutched my throat. Without the bug, I wouldn't know when he would bring Wang Guishan to deliver a fatal blow to Zhou Linshan. Hopefully, this time, it would still happen the day before the college entrance exam. That way, it would still be under my control. The results of the latest monthly test were out. Zhou Linshan ranked first. Shinya was second, and my grades dropped to 76th in the class. That was normal. I had graduated over a decade ago, and I had mostly forgotten my high school knowledge. My current grades were still decent, thanks to a solid foundation and the martial arts secrets Zhou Linshan sent me. Lately, I had been studying till midnight, confident in regaining my original strength before the college entrance exam. Seeing my grades, Zhou Linshan was the most anxious. He repeatedly reviewed my papers for each subject, his brows furrowed. This isn't your level. You've indeed been off lately. Holding his nearly perfect papers, I said. The top student remains strong as ever. Zhou Linshan seriously replied, yes. Your strength has arrived. Actually, spending time with him, you'd find he's not cold at all, but quite humorous. He picked up a pen and started to devise a study plan for my incorrect answers. Actually, I too was once a top student. I have my own study plan. Growing up in a love-deprived family, my mental health was never really in good shape. He has a strong desire to control, and I like being controlled. Actually, we are a perfect match. I noticed his suitcase at the back of the classroom and asked, are you going to the city by the sea for a competition? Yes, I need to attend a 2-week intensive training camp, and I have to hand in my phone, so I won't be able to contact you. Good luck. I'll be waiting for my first place trophy. Zhou Linshan handed me a study schedule. Shen Huiyan, you should also work hard and study well. I'll check your progress when I get back. Yes, sir. In the afternoon, Zhou Linshan left. During his absence, something happened. After school, Xin Yao and I rode home together. Little sister, you did terribly on this exam. Dad is going to be very angry. Despite Xin Yao's efforts to hide it, I could see the schadenfreude and delight in his eyes. He knew that today, all of Dad's anger would be focused solely on me. When I got home, my dad, Xin Jianting, hadn't returned yet. I turned on my phone to live stream and placed it in the study. I regularly upload violin videos on this account and have already amassed 200,000 followers. Panda Ross finally started the live stream. Are you playing the violin today? Today, I'm not playing the violin. I'm going to show you my dad. Xin Jianting came home. He stormed into the study, yanking off his tie and pointing at me with a fierce expression. Kneel down. I knelt on the ground. Xin Jianting took out a whip and lashed me repeatedly. What rules did I set for you? If I don't come first, I get beaten. But throughout high school, in every single test, midterm, and final, you've never beaten Zhou Linshan, not once. It's always Zhou Linshan who comes first. I've beaten you so many times. How come you never improve this time? You even dropped from the top 10 to 76th. Xin Jianting whipped me furiously. I heard you want to date Zhou Linshan. You're worse than a prostitute. At least they know how to sell themselves for a good price. If you're longing for a man, don't waste it on that poor boy. My investors like you. Sleeping with them could actually bring me value. Suddenly, I grabbed the whip. Even before high school, you found all sorts of reasons to abuse me. When I was 5, I accidentally spilled some food, and you made me kneel and lick it clean. At 8, because I didn't play the violin well, you kicked me and broke one of my ribs. From childhood, you've masked countless instances of domestic violence as discipline for my own good. I used to think all fathers were like this, but later, I realized they're not. The number of viewers in the live stream room surged as the audience flooded the chat. Stop hitting her. The blood on Panda's back. It must hurt so much. Sob 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 sob. Never imagined Panda Ross's dad would be an abuser. Poor Ross, worse than a beast, unfit to be a father. Who is this man? Expose him and let him face social death. Found him, the vice president of Dingzuan Group, Xin Jianting, a corporate executive. A wolf in sheep's clothing. Sisters, let's go rant on his company's official account. I'll start. I've called the police. I was crying as I watched it, feeling so sorry for the young lady. I smiled at him fearlessly and declared, I'm going to reveal your true face to everyone. If you hit me, you will pay a heavy price. Soon after, the police knocked on the door. Only then did Xin Jianting realize that his phone was live streaming. He collapsed to the ground, trembling like a coward. I saw myself at different ages, 5, 8, 18, all thanking the 28-year-old me. This time, I became my own hero, protecting myself, due to my poor exam results. Xin Jianting's act of whipping me was only punished by a few days of detention. That's why I started the live stream. Destroying his reputation was the best punishment for such a hypocrite. The incident quickly fermented online, becoming a hot news topic, with the whole internet condemning him. He was branded as an abuser. Dingzuan Group swiftly issued a notice, relieving him of his vice presidential duties. I applied for a personal protection order. Xin Jianting could no longer come near me. My revenge against Xin Jianting ends here, because I know that in a couple of years, he will suddenly die of a heart attack. I didn't remind him to take precautions early, waiting for death to judge him. I had planned to stay in the dormitory, but after Sun Lan learned about my situation online, she took me back home to take care of me. I removed my shirt and lay on the bed while Sun Lan applied medicine to my back. I remembered in my past life. The first time Zhou Linchen saw the burn scars from cigarettes and whip marks on my body, he angrily asked, "Who did this?" Back then, I resented him for imprisoning me and provoked him by saying I belonged to the BDSM community, and these were marks left by other men as part of their kinks. That drove him mad. "I can satisfy you, and from now on, you can only play with me." Every time, he would bite over my scars, marking them with his own. I was really reaping what I sowed. Letting him believe I liked it rough, Sun Lan, seeing the scars on my back, cried with reddened eyes. My mother died in childbirth, and I never experienced maternal love. Sun Lan was very gentle, and I felt maternal love with her. Thinking of her ordeal, I wanted to try and open her heart. "Auntie." I used to think that Xin Jianting was a high authority, an unbeatable tyrant. Out of fear, I cowardly hid in my shell, enduring his abuse. But this was wrong. The more submissive and weak I was, the more he intensified his abuse. It was only when I fought back that I realized he was even more cowardly and vulnerable than me. I took Sun Lan's hand as I brought up that name, Wang Guishan. Hearing his name, Sun Lan started shaking, her eyes filled with fear. "He's just a 60-year-old man now. What's there to be afraid of? You need dough every day. Your hands are stronger than his. We can fight back and get revenge. Don't be afraid. You can overcome him too." Tears rolling down, Sun Lan wrote on a piece of paper, "I can defeat him. I am not afraid." Her handwriting soaked through the paper. Her gaze was resolute and brave. I gave her a hug, excitedly saying, "Yes, you can." The competition ended. Just as Zhou Linchen got hold of his phone, he learned about my situation. "Call me right now." His voice was choked with sobs. "Shen Huiyan, are you alright?" "Yes, I'm fine. Your mom has taken good care of me. I've even gained weight over these 3 years. Have you hated me? Every time you were beaten, it was because of me?" "Zhou Linchen, it's not your fault. If he wanted to hit me, he'd always find a new reason. It's been like this since I was little. I really wish I could have whisked you away when you were young." I laughed and said, "Then why don't you raise me all over again?" "Alright, Shen Huiyan, I'll work hard to become wealthy, and give you all the best things. I don't lack material things. What I lack is love. So Zhou Linchen, come and love me." My words left Zhou Linchen bewildered, and he was eager to return. After school, I went to the wonton shop. Today, Sun Lan wasn't doing business. She had bought a lot of groceries, waiting for her son to come home. Sun Lan was busy in the kitchen. While I was doing my schoolwork, suddenly, I saw Xinyao standing outside the door. I approached him, cautious. "What are you doing here?" Xinyao's face was very pale. He rolled up his sleeves to show me, his skin torn and flesh exposed. Not a spot was intact. The injuries hidden under his clothes were likely even worse. "After you left, Xin Jianting beat me even more ruthlessly, but I won't leave. I've endured for so many years. I must get all of Xin Jianting's property and resources." I coldly said, "That is your choice, but my hatred, it eventually needs an outlet." Zhou Linchen is coming back today. If he returns and finds out that his rapist father has taken his mother away, he won't be so happy and proud, right? Xinyao is a devil, unlike before. Today Xinyao chose to ruin Zhou Linchen's life. At that moment, a sly old man with a bunch of people barged into the wonton shop. The old man was Wang Guishan. He shamelessly declared, "Wife, I've come to take you home." I pulled out my phone to call the police and blocked them, saying, "Aunt Lan is not your wife. I've already called the police. You better leave right away." They knocked my phone away. Wang Gishan's relatives saw me and said, "Wow, this girl is pretty. Let's take her too, to be my wife." "You are really a bunch of savages." I picked up a stool and threw it at them. They were too many and too strong. I was seized by Wang Gishan's relatives. Wang Guishan went straight into the kitchen. "Ah! Ah! Ah!" Screams came from the kitchen. It was Wang Guishan screaming. Sun Lan, holding a bloody kitchen knife, charged out of the kitchen. The previously fierce villagers immediately scattered like birds and beasts. Sun Lan, in a frenzy, chased them with the knife. Seeing Xinyao, perhaps remembering he had bullied Zhou Linchen, she chased him with the knife. Xinyao's face drastically changed, and in panic, he ran blindly across the street. Suddenly, Xinyao was hit and killed by an oncoming truck. Sun Lan came to her senses, dropped the knife, and collapsed to the ground. I went over to embrace her. Looking at the gruesome scene on the road, my mind was a complete blank, devoid of sorrow, joy, love, or hatred. I just felt numbness in my limbs, and it was incredibly cold. At that moment, someone enveloped Sun Lan and me in a warm, strong embrace. Joe Linson, you're back. He held us tight, his forehead pressed against mine. Yes, I'm back. Sun Lan had killed Wang Guishan. She had a psychiatric diagnosis and was having an episode at the time, so she was not held legally responsible. The villagers, fearing she might attack someone during another episode, dared not show up around her. Xinyao crossed the street and died in a traffic accident. Bearing the fate Sun Lan had in her previous life, Zhou Linson rented a new apartment. At night, we lay face to face, holding hands. I want to see your body. His words were devoid of worldly desire. He just wanted to see the scars on my body. In front of him, I took off my clothes. Zhou Linson's calloused fingers gently traced the old wounds on my back. Are they ugly? Not at all. You are beautiful. Zhou Linson bowed his head, like the most devout believer, and kissed those scars. My eyelashes trembled lightly. In my previous life, I was a wronged ghost. Only now did I feel that my soul had found peace. The harsh winter had passed, and I was reborn in the spring, suddenly. It was the day of the college entrance exam. Zhou Linson, having won first place in a physics competition, was admitted to Beijing University without needing to take the entrance exams. I was more nervous than I was about my own exams. He repeatedly checked my admission ticket and my stationery. Fill in the answer sheet after the multiple choice questions. I know, if you encounter a question you can't solve, don't panic, just move on to the next one, okay, Shen Huiyan. You are so strong now, getting into Beijing University will be no problem. I was about my own exams. He repeatedly checked my admission ticket and my stationery. Fill in the answer sheet after the multiple choice questions. I know, if you encounter a question you can't solve, don't panic, just move on to the next one, okay, Shen Huiyan. You are so strong now, getting into Beijing University will be no problem. Don't be nervous, have confidence in yourself, MHM. He really was a fatherly boyfriend, always worrying. After the last exam, I felt I had done very well. I walked out of the exam room light-footedly. When Zhang Xiaoyun stopped me, after Xinyao's death, she was the most heartbroken. Your brother told me you spied on him and helped outsiders stab him in the back. He was very hurt. If he hadn't gone to see you, he wouldn't have been hit by a car. Zhang Xiaoyun seemed off, so I turned to leave. She grabbed my wrist tightly, her grip like a vice, and I couldn't break free. You were born together. You should die together. Shen Huiyan, go down and accompany him, with force. Zhang Xiaoyun pushed me from the 5th-floor corridor. My body passed through a large tree and fell to the ground. I lay there, blood pouring from my mouth, every limb ached, my consciousness gradually fading. In this life, I had stopped Xinyao from deafening Zhou Linson. I fought back against an abusive father. The course of events changed Aunt Lan's fate from being killed by a car. It triggered a butterfly effect. Xinyao died, a just retribution for his wrongdoings. Yet, I still harbored an unfulfilled wish. I wanted to experience a normal romance with Zhou Linson. I didn't want to die. Zhou Linson, save me. In the hospital ward, I woke up from a coma. Zhou Linson was holding my hand. Asleep at the side of my bed. I hadn't died, truly. I was fortunate. A large tree had broken my fall, saving my life. I squeezed Zhou Linson's hand, and he woke up immediately. His face was unshaven, his eyes red with bloodshot. Zhou Linson, how did you become so unattractive? He looked at me, stunned and silent. Just kidding, you've got that rugged charm, which is quite handsome. How long was I unconscious, Sev? Zhou Linson's voice was hoarse. He cleared his throat, and after a long pause, he managed to say, 7 days. Are my injuries severe? Very. Multiple fractures and breaks throughout the body. I smiled at him reassuringly. It's okay, I'll get better. Zhou Linson held my hand, tears streaming down his face. He cried just as heartbreakingly as when I died in my past life. Zhou Linson, I have no home left. Once I'm better, take me home with you. He planted a deep, affectionate kiss on my forehead. Okay. In this life, fate ultimately sheltered us. The love unspoken in our past life continued in this one. Epilogue. 10 years later, Zhou Linson, as in the previous life, became a rising star in the business world, and I became a successful lawyer in my spare time. I used social media to educate on the law and provided legal aid to netizens. My relationship with Zhou Linson was sweet. I was a winner in both my career and love life, but recently, our relationship faced a major crisis. A client's boss took an interest in me. His name was Fu Shuoyuan, a prince of the capital's elite circles. It was also my fault. I hadn't realized he was pursuing me. One Sunday, I was enjoying a lazy morning in bed with Zhou Linson. Suddenly, Fu Shuoyuan called me, asking to discuss a case about his company. Zhou Linson, with his face against my chest and his hands mischievously at work, grumpily said, who calls someone to talk business on a weekend? For work, honey. Zhou Linson clicked his tongue and got up with me. He drove me there. Fu Shuoyuan had chosen his restaurant to discuss the matter. As soon as I entered, I realized it was a setup. The floor was covered with rose petals, and heart-shaped candles lit the space. Fu Shuiyuan approached me with a bouquet of roses. Yan Yan, I like you. Would you be my girlfriend? Zhou Linshan couldn't help but laugh. Yan Yan, I immediately grabbed Zhou Linshan's hand, our fingers tightly interlaced. I already have a boyfriend, and we've been deeply in love for 10 years. Fu Shuiyuan. Ever so provocative, eyed Zhou Linshan and challenged. I know, but dating for 10 years without marriage often means it won't happen. I'm younger and richer than him. It would be a wise choice to leave him for me. Zhou Linshan's fists clenched. If not for my hold on him, he would have charged at Fu Shuiyuan already. I soothed Zhou Linshan by patting his chest. To Mr. Fu, I said, are you out of your mind? I pulled Zhou Linshan away and we left. Zhou Linshan was still enveloped in a dreadful gloom until he got home. I squatted in front of him, smiling, and said, don't be mad. I had no idea he was going to pull such a stunt. I'm innocent here, Shen Huiyan. You've been with me for 10 years. Are you tired of me? I was utterly baffled. You are tired of me? Don't think I don't browse the internet these days. All the girls like guys under 25. I'm 28 this year, so you probably want someone younger and more energetic. Don't be ridiculous. You're the one with too much energy. I always find it exhausting. Are you not satisfied? Isn't it comfortable? I coughed awkwardly, treading carefully. We're arguing now, right? Can you slow down the car? I'm getting carsick. Zhou Linshan became furious. Take this seriously. Stop joking around. You're so charming and good-looking. The number of men interested in you will only increase. I hooked his finger with my pinky, knowing that he didn't distrust me, but was just making an excuse because he was so eager to marry me. It was I who didn't want to marry too early, so he was just matching my pace. Mr. Zhou thinks about marriage every day now. I was finally ready. Zhou Linshan, let's get married. The anger on Zhou Linshan's face instantly vanished, replaced by an excessively radiant smile. He grabbed my hand and led me away. Where are we going? To pick a wedding dress? He was truly in a hurry.